The arena was shaped like an ulcer. It pulsed faintly against the orbit of the dead gas giant it circled, glowing with a bio-neon halo meant to impress tourists and blind local fauna. The ultraviolet crown, they called it, though no one wore it, and the only thing it ruled over was a rotating buffet of violence dressed in tradition. Rings of audience platforms floated above it like judgmental storm clouds, packed to capacity with every shape of sentient being the galaxy could vomit up. Some had feathers, others wore their bones on the outside, and one species resembled a sentient sneeze with a monocle. In the middle, a pit of broken physics, decorated with lava vents, frost vines, and a single tree that screamed whenever someone looked at it for too long. It was, by all accounts, a good year. The final blood reconciliation games had reached their conclusion. The last match. The one that settled territorial disputes and dissolved wars with the elegance of televised dismemberment. Galactic leaders claimed the games were symbolic, that it was all in good sport, a cathartic mechanism for interspecies harmony. Which was a very delicate way of saying, let's make two living beings kill each other so we don't have to negotiate over mining rights. This year's final was especially anticipated, because a human had been entered. A woman, no less. The crowd was already laughing. She hadn't even arrived yet, and the laughter was thick enough to chew. The idea of a human making it to the final stage was absurd. Statistically improbable. Cosmically humorous. Most humans barely made it through the qualification rounds, and those who did were generally flung across the arena like improperly folded parachutes. She would be flattened, vaporized, or made into a diplomatic appetizer. The betting pools agreed. Her odds were posted on 17 separate boards, all misspelled. One platform simply labeled her lunch meat. Commentators swirled in from every planetary media outlet. "This is a historic joke," said Blarn Touvier of the Moog Intergalactic Sports Collective, sipping from a chalice of liquefied certainty. A mercy kill, dressed up as a finale. His co-anchor, a three-headed crustacean named Jektektik, rotated its mandibles in agreement. Even the arena's adjusting expectations. "Did you see it closed off the Predator cliffs?" Blarn snorted. Didn't want to overkill the overkill. In the locker corridor beneath the arena, Mira Elkins sat alone on a crate labeled Return to Sender. The air smelled like ammonia, copper, and aftershave designed by someone who had never experienced either. Pipes gurgled overhead. A maintenance bot scuttled past, paused, scanned her face, and issued a cheery beep before promptly short-circuiting. She didn't move. Her boots were mud-scarred. Her hair was pulled back with brutal efficiency. She wore the standard-issue bodysuit, dark gray, with old Earth camouflage blotches that most species found hilarious. Painted across her collarbone was a set of numbers in faded ink, 43-9AGH. Coordinates, maybe. Or a grave. A countdown blinked in the air above her. T-minus 7 minutes and 53 seconds to engagement. She exhaled once, slow and measured. A flicker of noise from the broadcast echoed through the corridor, her name mispronounced again, followed by an audible yawn. Her internal voice was calm, surgical. "They're not expecting anything. That's the point. You don't train for a ghost. You forget she was even there." Footsteps. A hiss of sliding doors. Her opponent had arrived. Sor the Unrelenting, Lord of Boneglass Ridge, winner of 12,000 combats, and accidental eater of 14 unarmed diplomats, strode into his own prep chamber. He was tall, not just physically, but existentially. His species, the TYRGG, evolved from armored apex herbivores who got bored of photosynthesis and declared war on the sun. He wore bone plates polished to a mirror sheen, and his primary arms were fused with kinetic blades that pulsed gently with spite. He flexed once, and a sound like cracking continents filled the chamber. The audience roared. In the front rows, several weaker organisms fainted from adrenaline poisoning. Sor's handler, a jittery squid named Vlex, waved a data slate at him. "Your opponent is, a human. Female. Limited record. Minimal enhancement. Tactical designation Mira Elkins. Shall I pre-approve your victory chant?" Sor blinked his 8 eyes in disdain. "Do we still not kill humans?" "Well," said Vlex, adjusting his scarf. Technically no. It's considered cruel. Soar cracked a knuckle loud enough to disrupt local weather. Then I'll maim her. Thoroughly. The old way. Excellent, Vlex said, stepping out of splash radius. The arena lights dimmed. Gravity spasmed once, for effect. In the central control booth, a sentient data cluster sighed in 12 dialects and activated the intro sequence. Overhead, 100 holoscreens erupted into life, each displaying one of Myra's pre-approved facial scans. She looked unimpressed in all of them. The announcer's voice echoed like gospel and gossip combined. Ladies, larvae, leaders, welcome to the final match. The crowd howled. In the red shade corner, the unbreakable, the unyielding, the unpronounceable bringer of sorrow, Soar the unrelenting. Soar stomped forward, lifted both arms, and screamed. Something in the jungle screamed back. And in the blue shade corner, Earth's own, human, Mira, Elkins. A silence followed, sharp and flat. Then, laughter. Spasms of it. Someone released confetti made of shredded treaties. A few humans watching from a corporate skybox frowned. She's going to get herself killed, one whispered. The diplomat beside him shook her head. If she wanted to survive, she wouldn't have agreed. Mira stepped into the light. No entrance music. No flag. No theatrics. She walked like someone on her way to pick up groceries. One hand rested on a utility belt. Her expression said, I've already calculated your mistakes. I'm just waiting for you to make them. The laughter softened. Slightly. Soar tilted his head. You're not afraid. No, Mira said and meant it. You should be. I'm often told that. Never been good at shoulds. He bared his teeth. I don't kill humans. That's nice. I didn't come to die. The announcer began the final ritual, a recitation of the arena's sacred rules, most of which involved what not to eat, where not to stand, and the permissible volume of screaming. Mira tuned it out. Her breath slowed. Her fingers flexed once, precise. The countdown resumed. T-minus 20 seconds. In the command center, someone whispered, Does she even have a plan? The chief of staff responded, She is the plan. The final seconds passed with a hiss of interdimensional flame. The arena shifted, terrain randomized in real time. Pillars rose from magma lakes. Jungle vines slithered into position. A gust of artificial wind whipped through the air, carrying the scent of ozone and something older. Mira took one last breath. She remembered a voice from Earth, her old CO, saying, There's power in not needing to be known. They expect a soldier. Be the shadow instead. The signal blared. Combat began, and Mira disappeared. Soar bellowed. Not for effect, not yet, but to declare presence, dominance, and unshakable territorial claim. His voice crashed into the canopy above, shaking loose crimson leaves that burned in the air like regret. The arena, half jungle, half furnace, all theater, tilted subtly to favor his side. The incline wasn't enough to qualify as cheating, but it was close enough that the crowd considered it polite assistance. He stomped forward, each step calibrated to rupture, to broadcast threat. Vines hissed and coiled away from him. The ground rippled beneath his weight like a nervous exhale. And still, no sign of her. The human. What had they called her? Elkins. As in elk. Or something else vaguely herbivorous. He sniffed once, twice, trying to catch the chemical signature of mammalian fear. Nothing. Just oxygen and photosynthetic sweat. The jungle did not distinguish her from its shadows. A distraction flew past, one of the arena's scout drones, whirring, its lens set to full-spectrum paranoia. The screen in the stadium cut to Soar's POV. Massive thermal outlines, potential ambush markers, threat indicators, all empty. The commentators filled the void with theatrical concern. She's not engaging. Is she lost? Perhaps she's hiding behind her moral compass. Or perhaps she realized claws matter in a clawed match. The joke landed. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The betting boards glowed brighter, reconfiguring odds with every second she failed to appear. Mira was there, of course. She had been there the whole time. Flat to the ground, a whisper beneath a tree root so ancient it dreamed in languages extinct before soar species discovered metallurgy. She lay prone in the undergrowth, her suit matching not just color but texture, light scatter, heat signature. The outer layer responded to foliage pH levels. The inner layer cooled her body to jungle ambient. She could be stepped on, and it would register as a root system anomaly. She didn't blink, didn't twitch. Not until Soar passed within 20 meters. And then she smiled. He was loud. Efficient, yes, in the way wrecking balls are efficient, but imprecise. She watched his breathing pattern adjust to the jungle's humidity. Watched his right leg favor a hairline fracture too prideful to admit. Watched his scent glands open, wide and unaware. She considered tagging him now. But no. This moment wasn't about her. Not yet. Soar paused in a clearing that the arena had landscaped for optimal camera angles. He flared his chest, extended all 6 arms, and shouted, "I invite you, mammal. Strike if you can." His blades extended with a hydraulic snap. The crowd hooped. A rain of currency confetti dropped from an orbiting sponsorship. Still, Mira said nothing. Back in the commentary booth, Jektektik made a noise resembling a blender full of marbles. "She doesn't even have claws. Does she even have a pulse?" Blarn added, "Was she perhaps imaginary?" A slow realization was dawning across the arena. Something akin to the horror of a stage actor realizing the audience had stopped laughing not because they were offended, but because they were learning. Soar snarled. He slashed at a boulder, bisecting it cleanly. The 2 halves sizzled. Lava hissed from the wound. "I don't kill humans," he shouted again. "You are nothing to prove against." This time, Mira responded. Not audibly. She moved 1 centimeter to her right and placed a small, flat disc on the root beside her. It clung magnetically and began to vibrate, a low hum, imperceptible to most species, but specifically calibrated to TYRGG echolocation patterns. The sound told one simple lie: movement. From behind. Soar turned. Swung. Missed. Spun. The arena caught his image and replayed it in real time, zooming on his confused expression. Laughter shifted. No longer cruel. Now nervous. Up in the diplomat's box, a Krask ambassador adjusted his monocle and leaned toward the Rulati envoy. Did the human just use bait? Primitive, the Rulati grunted. Effective, the Krask replied. In the arena's southwest quadrant, a 6-legged bookie voided a dozen bets at once. Soar began to move faster, but less accurately. His scans now flickered with noise. Mira had thrown off his optics by placing microreflectors, borrowed from arena decor, in the branches above him. Every now and then, they flashed just enough light to trigger a targeting ping. He was chasing ghosts. Mira moved with the roots, low and calm, her rifle unslung in silence. A breath. A pause. She ascended into a blind spot left by Soar's own shadow. Still, no shot. Timing was everything. Her internal voice remained clinical. He's not afraid yet. Not really. Not until he hears me. She adjusted the sight, not for aim, she never needed aim, but for acoustics. Because this wasn't just about hitting him. This was about letting the entire arena hear what a bad decision sounded like. From her new vantage, Mira could see the tension in Soar's upper limbs. Overcompensation. He was feeling the imbalance. The audience didn't know it yet, but he was losing the initiative. With every empty scan, every misdirected lunge, he handed her the tempo. And once a sniper owns tempo, they own reality. Another microdisc rolled from her glove and landed behind a fern. A mild spark. A heat flash. Soar pivoted. And that's when she finally spoke. "Behind you." Soar turned so fast he tore his own side muscle. She was in front. The crowd gasped. But she was already gone again. No shot fired. Just presence. A flicker of her outline, a whisper of her voice, and she vanished. It was, across 17 networks, the most replayed moment of the match. The commentators sat in stunned silence. For once, even Blarn had nothing to chew. Soar was breathing harder now. Less from exertion, more from confusion. It had been nearly 10 minutes. No damage taken, but also no contact. No confidence. She uses misdirection, he muttered to himself. Then louder, cowardice. Another voice, Myra's, answered through his own comms. No. Geometry. The arena's gravity flickered as his footing failed. Mira had hacked the local stabilizers, not to gain ground, but to make his equilibrium guess. Soar stumbled. She watched. Still didn't shoot. Let him fall. Let the cameras catch the stumble. Let the crowd see. Above, in the VIP orbit lounge, the Minister of Interplanetary Threat Analysis stopped mid-champagne sip and stared at a tactical display. Where is she? One of his aides fumbled with the tablet. We can't seem to locate. She's right there, said the minister and pointed. Not to the screen. To the gap in the data. The exact dead zone Soar had declared clear. And suddenly, every general, strategist, and analyst who had once rolled their eyes at primitive camouflage began writing new doctrines. In the arena, Soar screamed, "Show yourself!" And for a moment, Mira did. She stepped out from a tangle of root and light. Rifle low. Mask half drawn. Her voice calm. "You said you don't kill humans," she said. "I just want to know." She pointed her rifle, lazily. "Do you know why we don't kill you?" Soar charged. That was his mistake. Mira vanished again. And the match, everyone knew, had truly begun. Soar charged like a tectonic plate with an ego. His footfalls cracked the jungle floor, molten dust flaring from each stomp. Trees recoiled as he bulldozed through them, bark shattering in sprays of amber shards. The crowd roared in unison, some from excitement, others from primal instinct. It was hard not to cheer for momentum, even when it was aimed at the wrong century. But Mira wasn't there. She hadn't been there since the first step he took. She watched from his blind angle, tucked inside the folds of a rock face designed by the arena's terraforming AI to resemble a weeping cliff. Water dripped in slow pulses beside her cheek. She let one drop slide onto the back of her hand, noted the temperature, adjusted her rifle scope by 0.02 degrees. Her heart rate never left baseline. Soar tore through a stand of spiked grass, blades slicing at his armor. One punctured his thigh plating. He didn't notice. He was beyond thought now, governed only by rage, pride, and the nauseating suspicion that something small was making him look like an idiot. The commentators had switched tones. "Soar has entered a full commitment state," said Blarn, now notably quieter. "That's rare. Normally he's already finished by now." Jektektik added, "She's not even bleeding yet." There was no laughter. Just silence. Then a slow, unsettled murmur. As though the entire crowd had become aware of an unfamiliar sensation. Doubt. Soar crashed into a hillock. It exploded beneath him, spewing spores and steaming roots. He rose, breathing harder. The arena AI threw up damage diagnostics on the big screen. The crowd saw them before he did. Hairline fractures in 2 limbs. Ventilation lag. Core overheating. Hydraulics stressed. He'd been fighting the environment more than the enemy. And the environment, it turned out, was her. Mira moved again. Not far. Just enough to realign. The jungle obeyed her in the way it punished Soar. Leaves drifted into place, blocking line of sight. The vines retracted where she stepped. A bioluminescent moth landed on her shoulder, briefly, then drifted away, satisfied. She laid flat, adjusted a dial on her scope, and let the targeting matrix recalibrate. Soar's heat signature pulsed erratically through the foliage, overclocked, desperate. His energy was eating itself. Still no shot. The battle hadn't required one yet. Instead, Mira reached into her belt and released another disc. This one hissed faintly, releasing a gas engineered to mimic her DNA signature. Sweat, breath, blood iron. It drifted east on the breeze. SOAR caught the scent, roared, and veered sharply toward it. The jungle closed behind him, swallowing his tracks. Mira counted 7 seconds, then stood. From a standing crouch, she jogged a short arc uphill, moving like mercury across hot glass. She didn't use trails. She made no sound. Where SOAR had left a wake of ruin, Mira left a theory. At the hilltop, she knelt again. Now was the moment. She slung the rifle forward and opened its core plate. Within, a cluster of memory rounds, modular ammunition with stored subroutines. She selected one, a concussive slug designed not to kill, but to shame. SOAR reappeared below, hacking through roots like an angry chef. The crowd saw her now. Cameras locked. A new hush swept the Colosseum. Even the orbiting sponsors stopped broadcasting ads. Mira exhaled, lined up the shot, and fired. The round moved silently, a blur through layered foliage. It hit SOAR's back plate, denting it with such precision that his magnetic spine realigned involuntarily. He froze in place, stunned, not from pain, but from sheer mechanical shock. His legs spasmed. He fell sideways into a low-lying bog that made fart noises on purpose. The sound echoed across 5 continents. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then laughter. Not cruel. Confused. SOAR rose, sputtering, soaked in fragrant bog matter. His dignity remained in the water behind him. Steam rose from his armor. One of his weapons slipped from its mount. And Mira was gone again. The replay fed across every screen. Slow motion frame by frame, Myra's aim, the curve of the shot, the impact, the fall, the bog, the noise. It became an instant meme. The betting board fluctuated so rapidly it caught fire in 3 quadrants. In the orbital press lounge, the Lottie press secretary whispered, "This is not what we were promised." Her counterpart from the Krask Republic replied, "They said she was unarmed." "She is." Back on the ground, SOAR ripped the dented armor from his chest and bellowed. It didn't sound like a challenge anymore. It sounded like someone asking the universe to explain itself. Mira watched him from above again, perched in a tree that grew upside down. Its roots gripped the sky. She sat in its cradle, unbothered by gravity or decorum. The second round was already chambered. She didn't fire. Instead, she spoke, broadcast on local audio via the arena's emergency override channel. "Still don't kill humans?" SOAR's head snapped toward the sound. "That's your doctrine," she said. "Right? It's not mercy. It's arrogance. You think it's beneath you. That we're beneath you." SOAR growled something unintelligible. "I don't need you to kill me," she continued. "I need you to understand you could've." And with that, she dropped the second shot. It wasn't aimed at him. It hit the arena's terrain control tower. Non-lethal, electromagnetic. The field destabilized. Gravity fluctuated again. SOAR staggered. The ground beneath him tilted 30 degrees in a heartbeat. He fell forward onto his knees. Mira landed 3 meters in front of him, face to face. No rifle. No armor. Just her. SOAR stared at her, wide-eyed, uncertain whether to attack or apologize. Mira leaned forward slightly. Not threatening, just clear. "Ask yourself something, SOAR. If the only reason you didn't kill us was because you thought we couldn't fight back, what does that make you now?" He opened his mouth, closed it. His mandibles clicked once, then hung. And then she walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. The crowd erupted. Not in cheering, but in alarm. Because something had shifted. Something unquantifiable. SOAR, champion of 100 wars, still kneeling. The human, untouched, walking away. And the rules, it seemed, had never accounted for that. From the press box, a Trell ambassador turned to her aide and whispered, "We need to revisit our policies. On humans. On everything." In the control tower, a dozen game officials stared at the data stream, which now showed Mira with 0 damage taken, 0 energy spikes, and a threat efficiency rating that broke their metric display. "Reset it," someone muttered. "I can't. It's permanent." In the stands, a small boy of an amphibian species tugged on his mother's sleeve. "She's not scary," he said. His mother, watching Mira disappear into the forest, whispered, "That's what makes her scary." And far below them all, Mira disappeared back into the shadows. Not victorious. Not finished. Just ready for the next mistake. Soar's breathing had turned jagged. It wasn't the physical strain. His species was engineered to endure minor limb loss before registering discomfort. No, this was different. His breath staggered not from pain, but from unfamiliarity. The quiet. The absence of pattern. The shape of something smarter, smaller, and devastatingly still. He looked around the arena, every joint in his massive frame twitching toward movement that never came. Mira was nowhere. Again. She had disappeared for the 4th time, maybe the 5th. He had lost count. Which for Soar, the undefeated war-crowned son of Tyrgg Dominion, was the greater humiliation. He gripped the hilt of his secondary blade and activated its molecular edge. The weapon buzzed with violence, hungry for validation. Somewhere in the crowd, someone gasped. He didn't know if it was for him, or for the woman who now dictated his pacing. Above him, perched on the spine of a petrified bone tree, Mira waited. Focused. She had watched him pivot through the last 15 minutes of futile threat displays, lunges, growls, misfired plasma bursts, intimidation dances, and not once had she flinched. She didn't need to react to dominance. She just needed the math to finish calculating. In her retinal HUD, the numbers finally aligned. Heart rate, Soar's up 17%. Sweat rate, peaked. Armor coolant near depletion. Knee joint, 1.4 degrees misaligned. Perfect. She loaded the final round. It wasn't a kill shot. That wasn't what this was about. The doctrine demanded more. The audience still murmured, trying to grasp the angle. The human hadn't fired to kill. She hadn't bled. She hadn't even spoken until halfway through the match, and even then, just enough to bend the atmosphere. Now, the arena lights dimmed for dramatic emphasis. It was time for the closing act. The protocol called it the Sovereign Minute, a sacred pause before one combatant declared victory through lethal force or submission. It was ceremonial theater. An expected moment of grandstanding, of war cries and raised blades. Soar staggered into the clearing, panting, limbs slathered in mud and melted nerves. His expression was no longer fury. It was calculation, trying, desperately, to find a way this wasn't happening. The crowd quieted. Even the gambling feeds fell still. Mira stepped into the open. No camouflage. No tricks. She walked in full view, slowly, the way someone walks across a battlefield long after the shooting has stopped. Soar's eyes widened. He raised his blade on instinct. She didn't stop. He barked, low and confused. "Don't." "I said we don't kill humans," Mira said, voice amplified through the open arena mics. "But no one asked what we do to those who keep trying." Soar lunged. He never made it halfway. The shot rang out once, concise, surgical, too fast for dramatics. It struck the base of his shoulder, not enough to tear muscle but enough to collapse function. The blade dropped from his grip, embedding itself in the ground like a guilty confession. He fell to one knee, then the other, then silence. The arena didn't move. Not a breath. Not a blink. One shot. One doctrine. Mira stood over him now, rifle lowered. "Wars don't start with bullets," she said. "They start with beliefs. This was yours. That mercy means weakness. That humans aren't worth the kill." She paused, letting the silence breathe. "Well, now you've learned what happens when we believe something else." Soar didn't speak. Couldn't. His audio relay had fried from the concussive round's feedback. But his eyes said it all. Not hate. Not even humiliation. Understanding. She turned and walked away, her silhouette framed in the boiling mist that curled up from the broken arena floor. Cameras tried to zoom, to capture her face, her emotion, but they caught only shadow and intent. The scoreboard flickered. Not winner. Not defeated. Just a single phrase. Unanswered. In the stands, no one cheered. They didn't know how to. In the VIP skybox, the Rotti Admiral dropped his glass. It shattered on the floor like a peace treaty folding itself in half. She just rewrote the spectrum, someone whispered. No. She reminded us it was never written by us in the first place, another answered. At a diplomatic outpost light years away, a meeting was cancelled. The Terran ambassador had yet to speak, and no one wanted to go on record with a policy that would later contradict Mira Elkins. Back in the arena, Sor remained on his knees. Not defeated, not broken. Just recalibrated. One by one, alien species recalculated their strategic assumptions. Tactical doctrines. Threat profiles. The term camouflage was no longer an entry in the human file under cultural quirks. It was a priority flag, blinking red. And everywhere the match was broadcast, the same phrase began to circulate. One shot. One doctrine. Later, the Terran embassy issued no statement. Mira herself did not appear for interviews. The footage was uploaded once to the Terran secure net, tagged under a single classification. Operational success. Back in her quarters, Mira removed her gear with clinical silence. The rifle was disassembled in less than a minute. She placed the memory rounds back into cold storage. Her uniform hung neatly, unstained. A teacup, untouched, waited on the windowsill. Steam had long since gone. She sat down and watched the stars. Not the ones outside. The ones replaying on every channel. Her image. Walking away. Again and again. Framed as vengeance, heroism, mythology. She felt none of it. Only the soft hum of gravity rebalancing under her boots. A knock. The door slid open. A young envoy from Earth's Foreign Service stood awkwardly, holding a datapad like it might explode. Command says well done. And to tell you, Phase 2 is authorized. Mira nodded. Said nothing. The envoy shifted. Do you want to see the numbers? Your name's trending across 6 quadrants. No. The envoy hesitated. Is it true what you said? About why we don't kill them? She looked up, eyes flat. It's not doctrine, she said. It's restraint. He swallowed and left. The door hissed shut behind him. She stared at her hands. Steady. Always. And somewhere, in the darkened coliseums of galactic war planning, entire empires began rewriting their opening paragraphs. Because now, they knew. Humans don't kill for sport. But if provoked, they only need one shot.